In a pneumatic system, our goal is clean air with stable pressure. And because of that, we need to do these 3 steps in a pneumatic system. We need to filter the air first, then regulate the pressure, and then add oil with a lubricator. That first stage, that filter, this happens before the air ever gets to the cylinders and other actuators, because the air pulls in dirt and we want to clean it. When you're walking around the shop and you see a thing that looks like a plastic jar and there's no oil inside, you are looking at a filter. They do come in different envelope styles, but this one is common. So there's a centrifugal action makes the dirt particles and the condensed moisture settle down in the bottom of the filter, and then a staff person can come along and open the drain and drain it out. Some of these filters have an automatic drain, which is makes sense, of course. Then, to stabilize the pressure, because we have fluctuating pressure from the compressor turning on and off, and we have actuators on the system pulling out, draining off air, so we need a way to keep that air pressure constant. And we use a device called a pressure regulator. So no matter what the compressor is doing or what the actuators are doing, the flow stays constant. Here is the symbol for a pressure regulator, and you will notice it looks similar to a pressure relief valve, but it's not quite the same. Both of them have a spring. Both of them have a diagonal line, meaning they're adjustable. This one has a 2-way arrow in it. And now let's look at a pressure relief valve. Here's a pressure relief valve for a pneumatic system. The pressure relief valve does not have a 2-way arrow. It has only 1 arrow, and it's got a 1-way flow path, so the air pressure might push the spool over and let air vent out, or the spring might push it to the side and block flow. Let me back up again. So there's the pressure regulator. Here's the pressure relief. And then the pressure relief has an air exhaust symbol on it, showing that the air goes into the atmosphere. You often see filters and air regulators, air pressure regulators combined in single units. See, there's that plastic jar-looking thing for the filter. And this one, of course, has a gauge on it, so you know what's happening. In any system, feedback is important, and it doesn't matter what system you are in, feedback is always important. All right, so we've filtered the air and we've regulated the pressure. Now we need to lubricate the air. We need to put a little bit of oil into the air right before it gets to the cylinders or other actuators, because they've got moving parts and there's no hydraulic fluid in this thing. This is an air system, so we've got to add lubricant. And this lubricator sprays a fine mist of oil in there, and that fine mist goes into the air system and into the cylinders or whatever they are. It looks similar to a filter. It's got a glass or a plastic jar on it also, but when you look at the thing, you'll notice there's a layer of oil inside. The oil is filling it. Here is the symbol for a lubricator. You can see it looks maybe a little bit like a filter symbol turned on its side, but there's no, in a filter there's a dashed line that goes all the way across. In a lubricator there's just a single dash and it goes up and down. These 3 units are often combined in a single unit. An FRL, which stands for Filter, Regulator, and Lubricator. It's sometimes called an air conditioning device. And that doesn't mean you're making your room cold. It means you're conditioning the quality of the air that goes into your pneumatic system. Here at the bottom, I repeated it twice. I don't know why I did that. Same symbol. So here's the symbol for that unit all in one piece. And the dashed line across the rectangle indicates filter. The thingy in the middle that has a diagonal arrow, and you might remember that represents adjustable. So there's one diagonal arrow for the gauge and a second longer diagonal arrow for the adjustment. That's the pressure regulator. And then over here on the side is one short line that represents the lubricator. And we saw, let's see, was it this last slide? Yeah, there's the symbol for the lubricator by itself with the one short line. So here is the symbol for the lubricator when it's part of this one unified device. As you might recall, a compressor heats up the air, so the air molecules experience friction and they get hot. That means we have to cool the air before we can use it. Also, warm air holds more moisture than cold air. So if we have warm air, we've got a bunch of moisture in there, and when we cool it, that moisture condenses out. That air reaches the dew point, and the moisture condenses out. So we need something to take the moisture out of the air, some kind of dryer. This is a device that you put after the compressor. It's called an aftercooler. So air comes from the compressor and it's hot, and it goes through this basically heat exchanger with cold water in it, and cools it gets cooled, and moisture condenses out and drips down here and goes down into the drain area. Here is the symbol for that aftercooler. Then here is the symbol for a separate dryer. It looks like this with two horizontal lines across the peaks. And you can dry the air with a couple of different methods. One uses a drying agent inside, you know, kind of like, I don't know, when you buy vitamins, there's a little packet of desiccant in the vitamin bottle. It's that kind of stuff. It absorbs the moisture. Or in a bigger system, you can actually use refrigerant to chill the air, and that, you know, cold air holds less moisture than warm air. So when the air is chilled, the moisture condenses out and then drips down into a drain. Just to wrap up, here are a couple of repeats. We saw these schematics or partial schematics in an earlier slideshow, but I'm repeating them here so that we can remember what these symbols look like. So here is this guy showing that FRL unit. Now he just shows the symbol with the gauge line but not another diagonal arrow, but we still recognize, okay, lubricator, regulator, filter. And finally, here is the schematic from the Parker-Hannifin handbook. I wanted to show you this because they've got two aftercoolers in there, and backing up. There's the aftercooler right there. So going forward, there's the aftercooler. And then they've got an air dryer over here in this other loop between the compressor and the receiver. So there is your whirlwind tour of pneumatics.